The new flavor of the week, Warner Brothers Discovery. WWE Raw still does not have a landing spot for the end of 2024. There is still no deal in place. All of these meetings, all of these networks and entities, and they can't strike a deal. That tells you that Nicholas Khan for WWE, their CEO, is not going to get what he's asking for. You just saw that with SmackDown. WWE made a boatload of money from the USA Network, NBC, Universal, Comcast. They made a boatload of money, but they left a ship full of money on the table. They didn't get $200 million, maybe even more than that. The number we're getting is around $40 million per year was left on the table. Nick Khan valued WWE way more than these networks do. So Monday Night Raw will no doubt get a boatload of money, but this tells you that no matter what they get, they're going to leave a ship full of money on the table. They're not going to get what they're asking for. Fox showed you that with SmackDown. When they heard how outrageous the price, the asking price by Nick Khan was, they said you can see yourself to the door or we can give you Das Boot. And USA Network said, well, I mean, we'll give you this, but we're not giving you the 200 million extra you think you're worth. And when Nick Khan turned around and saw nobody left to negotiate with, he said, all right, you got a deal. Monday Night Raw. FX was supposed to be this front runner. Now, this was odd to BC anyway, right? Last week, the bee's knees in the community was FX to be the front runner to acquire Monday Night Raw. FX was owned, of course, by Fox. Fox was acquired by Disney. Disney acquired Fox for $70 billion, right? $14 billion in debt, by the way. Still to this day, they're nearly $8 billion in debt by the Fox acquisition. So Disney is in debt, billions of dollars. So why would Disney take WWE Raw for a few $100 million and then just stuff it on FX? Because Disney said they will not put it on ESPN. If they were to ever do business with WWE, Disney has already said, and for those that don't know, Disney owns ESPN. Disney said they don't want scripted programming, scripted sports on their ESPN programming. They don't want to blur those lines with their sport fans. They don't want to cross those boundaries. So that's where FX comes into play. For those that are thinking FX is a weird channel to have pro wrestling, well, that's the only channel you can stuff it on. That makes some sense by Disney. Because for those that are wondering too, well, BC, you said Disney acquired Fox, which already had FX under their wing, but Fox just booted WWE. So how does that work, BC? Well, Fox, this is complicated. I don't want to confuse you guys too much, but long story short, Fox is now a standalone company. Under Fox right now, that is not acquired by Disney, is the Fox channel you see now, Fox Sports, and Fox News Corp. So like Fox News, for instance. Those entities, that's part of a standalone Fox Corp, it's called now. Everything else was acquired by Disney. So the FX branch, the Fox movie library, what was it? 21st Century Fox, I believe it was. The TV shows, Simpsons, things like that. That's all Disney. So it's kind of odd when you go to the theme parks down in Florida. You see like the Springfield Simpsons Land at Universal, but Simpsons are actually owned by Disney, but they were grandfathered into the park when it was owned by Fox. It's wild, right? It's like I also believe that like you see Spider-Man at Disney and with Universal. Of course, Universal is NBC, Comcast. So the business side is always interesting to BC, but I won't bore you guys with that. But that's why Fox is separate right now from the deal with the Disney. But Disney acquired everything else from Fox, and they're still paying that debt to this very day, billions of dollars. So it's a very odd thing for Disney to make an irrational decision like this, because that's what it would be. It wouldn't be a sound decision to acquire something like WWE, which has falling numbers, right? Raw is seeing its worst numbers ever under the Paul Levesque McMahon era. And there has to be a way to turn this around. But people are just not into this 3 hours of television. And it's a shame because you have a lot of top stars finally. But Paul Levesque McMahon has not found a way to capture an audience for 3 straight hours. And the ratings are telling us not even 1 hour they're captivated by. 1.4 is the new normal for WWE Raw. So Nick Khan is asking for all of this money. The ratings are falling farther than they've ever fallen before. Something's not adding up. The networks are finally smartening up, right? So Fox gave him Das Boot. Disney with FX, it looked like that was going to be a thing and something fell through. Of course, it could still happen. You could always go back to the negotiating table. You could hear that FX acquired it. But why didn't the deal happen yet? And that was a couple weeks ago, right? That it was supposed to be finalized. They were the front runners. And now all of a sudden we're talking Warner Brothers Discovery. They jumped to a different negotiating table. Well, that's because this FX, Disney, is waking up and they're going, wait, something's not adding up. You want all this money from us, but looking at your ratings, they're going the other way. So how can you guarantee that all this money is going to be put to good use? Nick Khan is not getting what he's asking for. That's what's happening here. And Disney is smartening up because Disney cannot even get out of that debt when they bought Fox. And their only source of income, by the way, revenue-wise, profit for Disney is their theme parks. If you look at their quarterlies, if you look at their revenue income, their theme parks is the only source of actual profit. And what Disney is doing is they're taking that profit from the theme parks and they're putting it into Disney Plus. They really want that streaming service to work. The problem is Disney Plus is a sinking ship, and they just keep piling all of the profit they're taking from the theme parks, putting it on this sinking ship, and they don't realize that the weight of all this cash is making that ship sink even further. Disney Plus is a lost cause. So their best bet, even though it's probably just throwing away money the other direction, right? Throwing it to Disney Plus is throwing away money. But if you throw it to the other way, which is cleaning up your debt, they feel like they're not getting anything for their cash. But that's basically what you're doing by giving it to Disney Plus. You might as well pay off your debt. Just pay that off, clean that out, and then in the future you can make acquisitions like Monday Night Raw if the ratings are up to par. But right now, Disney is in financial peril. In fact, Universal is whooping that ass right now. They're building another theme park that's going to be the size of one of Disney's parks. Epic Universe, it's called. Meanwhile, Disney is failing to even come out with a new attraction. And their theme parks is their big revenue income. And they're not even putting money back into the parks like they used to do. Disney is in financial peril. I don't know how. It would be one of the worst decisions they could possibly make to purchase Monday Night Raw. Because Raw right now, unless it turns itself around, is a sinking ship. They have Rollins and Punk. Aside from that, you have nothing else. The rating this week showed you they pulled a 1.4 again. But Punk and Rollins scored a 1.88, nearly a 1.9. Over 400,000 viewers tuned in. They didn't even know Seth was coming out to confront Punk. That was absolutely not marketed, not promoted. Only Punk's appearance was. And they stuck throughout the entire segment, which means not only did they go to the channel, but they put the remote down. They were interested in Rollins and Punk, as is BC and many of you guys, but they can't carry the entire show. That's not fair to Rollins or Punk. It's 3 hours, guys. This isn't even just a 2-hour SmackDown. 3 hours. You gotta help Punk and Rollins out. They can't do it all themselves. They shouldn't be anyway. They shouldn't be asked to do such. This is where Levesque McMahon has to get a team around him and make clear-cut decisions. Stop all the heel versus heel crap, the faces versus the faces, the shaking hands afterwards, the mutual respect era. It's confusing your fan base. Get back to storylines, many of them, 4, 5 storylines every single Monday. 2 or 3 really good stories every Friday. That's all we're asking for, bare minimum. Having Imperium take on DIY and Miz every week, because that's what's been happening for 3 months now. DIY and Imperium. Miz and Gunther will be a side branch. This week, another 6-man tag. It won't be the last. Same thing we saw with Sammy and KO versus Judgment Day the entire 2023. Those aren't feuds. Ivar and Bronson, they're just fighting every week. That's not a feud or a storyline. That's nothing that you can't, but I can't wait to see Ivar and Bronson again next week. These aren't feuds. Carter and Chance defeat Candice LeRae and Indy Hartwell in 2 minutes. What does that do for Indy and Candice, first of all? They're always losing in less than 2 minutes. They just got to the roster. Indy, anyway. Candice hasn't even been there for a cup of coffee. And then the winners, Carter and Chance, they win in 2 minutes over Indy and Candice. You already didn't position Indy and Candice to be anything relevant or prestigious. So what's a win over them in 2 minutes going to do? You might as well have just put 2 jobbers in there from the local bingo hall, honestly. If you were just going to feed Indy Hartwell and Candice LeRae to Carter and Chance in 2 minutes, then just put in Handjob Holly and Booyaka Booyaka Betsy. You know, with the size double, you get it. Put in Handjob Holly and Booyaka Booyaka Betsy and have them defeated in 2 minutes to Carter and Chance. No harm, no foul. Bring back the jobbers. It's 2 minutes. If that's all the time you're going to give the ladies anyway, these 4 ladies, 2 minutes, what is that doing? That's why Raw is failing. It's segment by segment. A lot of this doesn't make sense, or it's filler, or a combination of all of this. And this is why you get a 1.4 for 2 consecutive months. Average anyway, sometimes a 1.5. They've even hit a 1.3. A couple weeks ago it was a 1.8. That's post Survivor Series, Punk and Randy Orton's returns. And then it went right back to 1.5 2 weeks ago. And then last week, 1.4 this past week. So that's what I mean. It's important that you guys know these numbers, because when talking about a TV rights deal, the network has to say, you want hundreds of millions of dollars from us. What are you giving us in return? Our average, right? Most of that's coming back in advertisers, right? Okay, so the advertisers have to do that business with you. The advertisers have to know that it's worth all of that money to put our ad, promote our product on this show, because that's the amount of eyeballs. You can't do that if you're a sinking ship. They'll go somewhere else. Big Bang Theory is in reruns, and they pull in over 1 million in viewership on average. That's the lead-in to Dynamite, which, by the way, is a good lead-in to Warner Brothers Discovery, right? So that's the FX side of things. Of course, a deal could still be struck between FX and WWE, Disney and WWE, I should say, but that would not be a sound decision for Disney. That would absolutely be a very bad business move, just like the Fox acquisition. They were hoping that when they acquired Fox and they bring in the movie library from 21st Century Fox and The Simpsons and all that it would bolster Disney Plus. It failed miserably, and now they're just stuck with billions of dollars in debt. So let's bring in WWE that can't pop a 1.5 on average. Even without Monday Night Football competition, 1.5 is hard to do. So it wouldn't be smart for Disney. And no matter what happens, even if Disney does strike a deal with WWE, you're still seeing the hesitancy, and you're still seeing that Nick Khan will not get what he's asking for. Otherwise, the deal would have been done weeks, maybe even months ago. That's why we're even talking about Warner Brothers Discovery, right? The whole last 10, 15 minutes has brought us to Warner Brothers Discovery, because that's the new talk of the town in pro wrestling, right? Warner Discovery is now the front runners. WWE could strike a deal with Warner Discovery. So let's go to school on this run. Class in session. Professor BC is ready to take command on today's lesson. First and foremost, let's talk about if AEW can, or Warner Brothers can, acquire WWE Raw. AEW does not have an exclusivity deal with Warner Brothers Discovery, which means absolutely Warner Brothers can bring WWE television onto their networks. No question about it. That is a resounding yes. We know for a fact. And we don't have a lot of details with AEW and Warner Brothers Discovery's contract, but we can tell you there is no exclusivity deal. WWE absolutely can find its way onto their networks. Then you say, well, will AEW get Das Boot? Absolutely, that's a possibility. In fact, it was a running joke in the wrestling business that Tony Khan is paying Warner Brothers Discovery for the TV time, not the other way around. And it was just a joke, but Tony Khan doesn't really, he never, when addressing it, he tries not to, but he's never debunked it. So we always just thought, well, I mean, you could easily just like laugh at it at least, right? Like that is so absurd, but he doesn't do that. And then came that really awkward interview a couple months ago, just last month, when he said, I am willing, he said, to take less money if Warner Brothers Discovery wants to continue to do business and sign us to another contract in years length. A new TV deal, I'm willing to take less money. Anybody who's a businessman, but even if you're not a businessman, any kid will tell you this. You don't tell the person you're negotiating with way in advance, before you're even at the negotiating table, by the way. You don't tell them you're willing to take a lot less. By the way, you can totally screw me over on the value of this. I'm totally cool with it. Just letting you know, when we finally meet up in a couple of months at the negotiating table and we do this contract and we sign our names, I'm willing to take a lot less. That's the equivalent. Like you need a new TV, right? And you go into Costco or you go into Best Buy. You go to buy a new TV. It's $1,000. It's a fancy one. It even curves a little bit to block out sun glare, right? It's got all the high def stuff, all of it. It's great. And it's $1,000, but you're like, you know what? You tell the associate, come here for a second. I don't want to make anything harder for you or make you sell this any more than you have to. I'm willing to pay $1,400 for this. And he's looking at you like it's $1,000. Yeah, but I'm willing to pay $1,400. If you sell this TV to me, if you're going to do me that favor and sell me this TV, I'm going to give you $1,400. That's how appreciative I am. Who is going to pay $400 more on a $1,000 television? If a TV is $600, you're not going to give them $1,000. You need a new washer and dish dryer set. It's $1,500 for the combo. I'll give you $2,100. Doesn't make sense. That's what Tony Khan is saying. I'm willing to take less money when we go to the negotiating table if you're willing to keep us. So over in WWE, you got Nick Khan overvaluing WWE. He thinks it's worth more than it is because the ratings are show you know it's not. They're making record profits coming off of the Plandem era. I get it. Soon, those credit cards are going to stop, though, and these fans can't go to these shows, right? These prices are astronomically large. To go to a WWE event for a good seat these days, it's about $500 to $1,000. I mean, that's what it is. Check out Ticketmaster on some of these events. These credit cards are going to eventually stop, right? This record revenue does have an end spot. And that's a microcosm. The people that show up, those are the people that really just want to go and see their favorite superstars and yell, "This is awesome." That has an end date, though. That's a small microcosm to the larger scale, which is the television audience, right? The people that are not so quick to spend that money to go live. They're telling you that they're dwindling. They're running away in droves from the product. So before we say it's a wrestling boom period, let's call it what it is. It's a WWE financial boom period, because financially they're doing really well. And they've been liquidating for years. Vincent Kennedy McMahon played this perfectly. Whether you love the dude or don't, he played this perfectly to where the company liquidated, sold for billions of dollars to Endeavor. Kennedy is every other week cashing in on some stock. They are set. They played it perfectly. Eventually, that financial boom period is going to slow down, though. And the more fans you lose, and then the credit cards stop for the live attendance, oh, that is a perfect storm for WWE to be in a bit of peril. So you take Warner Brothers Discovery with AEW, and you have Tony Khan. So Nick Khan in WWE, don't get your cons mixed up. The CEO of WWE, Nick Khan, is overvaluing WWE. Over in AEW, Tony Khan is undervaluing AEW, saying, man, if you just keep us on, we'll take a lot less money. That's not how you negotiate. That's not how you do business. Because Warner Brother Discovery is not just going to give you less money. They're going to look at you like a joke. Then there's words that like Warner Brother, there's actually like reports that people believe that Warner Brothers Discovery has points in AEW. In other words, like holds some type of ownership in AEW. And again, nothing's been rebutted, rebuted, or debunked. None of it. It's just odd. The relationship with AEW and Warner Brothers Discovery is very odd, and it seems very one-sided. So, not only can Warner Brothers do business with WWE, yes, that is a yes, because AEW doesn't have an exclusivity deal with Warner Brothers. But on top of that, AEW could very easily get Das Boot for WWE if that's one of their requests. If WWE says we don't want to do a deal where AEW is on the same network, it'll just mix our audiences, and we just don't want that. AEW will absolutely kick them to the curb. Guys, their flagship show is Dynamite. They're trying to pull 8 to 850,000 every week in viewership. They used to be at 950 for several months. That dwindled to 850. Not even. I think they're literally trying to get 8 to 850. So to put that into some perspective, guys, their lead-in to Dynamite, which is Big Bang Theory, right? It's in reruns. It's a show that's in reruns on TNT, TBS, and that show pulls over 1 million viewers. In reruns, over 1 million viewers. So people think I joke around when I say if Raw goes really low, if Raw starts hitting 8, 9, even 700,000 viewers, I mean, nobody thought they would pull 1, 2, 1, 3s. And what happened this year, guys? 1, 4 is their average. We already saw 1, 3s. So if they keep going down, I always say like they could easily just put in Blue Bloods reruns or SVU reruns, which gets a few 100,000 in viewership for a lot less money. They could easily just do that. Well, to show you how serious I am, look at Warner Brothers. They could just do another episode of Big Bang Theory, or a couple, right? 1 more hour block, for instance, and they would pull 1 million viewership per half an hour. That's a 2 million point in 1 hour. That's astronomical to the, by quarter, 750 to 850 that they're usually pulling with Dynamite. And again, for a lot less money. A lot less money. Everybody forgets that Big Bang Theory actually pulls in more than Dynamite. So what is stopping these networks from just putting on reruns that are going to give you a better audience, a bigger audience? Nothing is. They're taking a gamble on these products, WWE and AEW. They take a gamble on them. They're hoping for the best. They're hoping for different types of advertisers. I get it. But when it starts to drop so low and you're not seeing the increase, you're not seeing the uptick, you're not seeing the trajectory go the right way, it's going in the wrong way, these networks will give you Das Boot. Fox just showed you that. Fox said it was the audience of WWE that made our decision. It wasn't there. We were hoping for 3 mil. They were only averaging a little over 2 mil. Our advertising, what we were getting on our return on investment, it wasn't there. It affects the advertisement. It affects all of it when the viewership is sinking or stagnant. It affects everything. And Fox had to make the tough decision to say, we got to part ways. FX, Disney, cannot cut a deal with WWE, at least not yet, because they can't reach the number that Nick Khan wants. And Nick Khan is stubborn. He truly believes he can get this number. So he's shopping Raw around still. And there's still people that are willing to listen. Even Warner Discovery. Do I think it's likely? No. I think there's a wild card at play, and it's Amazon Prime. I'm hearing some things. I don't want to talk too much about it yet until I hear more. But I am hearing some things, and I wouldn't be shocked if it's on a streaming service, Amazon Prime. But anything can happen, man. You know, you work something out, and you could hear Disney cuts a deal with WWE. You could hear Warner Brothers gets it, and a week later, they announced this will be the last several months for AEW on Warner Brothers. Of course that can happen. We don't know in these negotiating tables, but why it's dragging out this long, why you still do not have a home for Monday Night Raw, and it's around the same type of expiration date as SmackDown has. But you're not hearing about a deal because Nick Khan cannot get what he's asking for. And he's stubborn, he doesn't want to lower it. But guess what? No matter what deal they get, and it'll be for a lot of money, they're not going to get what Nick Khan is asking for. They're going to leave hundreds of millions of dollars on the table, and that's going to send the stock into a frenzy. There's going to be panic within WWE's TKO holding stock. That's what happened with SmackDown, right? You guys remember, man, it dropped what? It dropped like 17 points the day of that announcement. But you're thinking, well, but the deal was for hundreds of millions of dollars. You would have thought everybody would be happy, right? That's not how the stock works. It was valued at much higher. They left $200 million on the table. I don't want to bore you guys with how the stocks work, but you want a good future when you invest your money, right? You want to know that there's a good trajectory with where your money's going, where you have your money put in. If you know that you just left $200 million on the table, that is not a good sign for the future. You hear about this WWE financial boom period, but stocks, shareholders, they're thinking about the future. And it's exactly what BC just told you. The future is a lot darker for WWE's financial scenarios. They're liquidating now. It's a boom period now. It's gonna run its course, especially because the product and everything else is going backwards. The ratings, the numbers, that's going backwards. So the shareholder, the stock, how it works is they're looking at what SmackDown left on the table, not what they brought in. I hope that makes sense. So with Monday Night Raw, same thing. We're valued up here, or at least we're valuing ourselves up here. But if the network is saying you ain't worth that, and we're not going to give you anywhere near that, then that's not a good sign. SmackDown just didn't give you what you wanted. Raw, the new deal, whoever is going to acquire Raw, did not give you what you asked for. What do you think that says going forward? And that's why to this day, WWE's TKO stock is at 75, I believe, correct? 75. To give you guys a little bit of perspective, when Vince sold over WWE to Endeavor, they were trading around 100. 75 now. That's why ratings matter. That's why the trajectory, the future of the company and the outlook of it, that's why it matters, right? That's why these deals with SmackDown are so important, because it sets the next deal up for Raw and such. CW acquiring NXT. Everyone hears this big number, right? They tripled their revenue or whatever the report was. You're not looking about the negatives, because that's where the shareholders, the stock market, that's what they're looking at. And that's not a lot. That's just breaking even. Do you guys realize that the deal that NXT got with the CW, WWE got, do you guys realize that they're not going to record a profit still? You just hear triple the rep. You're not understanding. That still does not bring in a profit for NXT. Or WWE, I should say. NXT will continue to not make a dime for WWE. Sadly, unless that changes over time. You know, maybe they just start popping wild ratings and all of a sudden business is booming, and then you got to revisit that negotiating table. But NXT has never made a dime for Vincent Kennedy. Everybody admits that. Everybody knows that. This new deal didn't do anything for that. It just secured them a new rights deal, and it gave them a little bit of wiggle room cash. That's what we call that. These little $30 to $40 million a year type deals. Same thing AEW got, which we heard was about $30 to $40 million, something like that. But NXT was already getting, when you put in the weekly production fees, which every network gives every week to these companies and their shows, when you add that in, they were already over 20 million anyway. So I'm highly questioning the 3 times. That's not even in the ballpark if you actually break it down. But again, I won't bore you with that. So anyway, that's the deal on Warner Brothers Discovery possibly acquiring Monday Night Raw. Yes, it's a possibility. Just like Disney even more so. But with Warner Brothers, I just don't see the upside in this. although they really want to be in the wrestling game. And if you really want to be, and CM Punk was the guy that they really wanted to build around, well, this would be the time to do it. WWE needs a new home for Raw. They have the guy that just set social media records or whatever it was. There's buzz, there's interest. Maybe that can start the process of turning Monday Night Raw around. But again, you need the other 2 hours and 45 minutes of the show that Punk is not on. You need that to deliver, and that's where the problem is. But this would be the time maybe for Warner Brothers Discovery to strike. Man, that would break Tony Khan's heart. I'll tell you that much. And I just don't think it would make sense for WWE to be on the same network as AEW. I just don't. I think that's wildly not a smart decision, especially when you already don't look at them as competition. And guys, that's the case. WWE does not look at AEW as any type of competition. And you can look no further than Cody Rhodes. You guys, this is interesting. So Cody Rhodes was recently on the Michael Kay show. That's a radio show for New York tri-state area. The rest of the country, I don't think gets it. There's probably ways, actually, because there's people that call in California, you name it, and they're actually listening in on the show. But it's with Michael Kay, the voice of the New York Yankees, their lead announcer for television, not John Sterling. Yankees win! Yankees win! Yankees fans know what I'm talking about. Michael Kay is the television lead announcer, and he runs this radio show with Peter Rosenberg, who does some business with WWE, of course, and Don LaGreca, the older brother of one of the other LaGrecas that's on another podcast in pro wrestling. I forgot what it was or his exact name, but it's a LaGreca. And they have a radio show. Cody Rhodes, thanks to Peter Rosenberg, said yes to be a guest on the show yesterday. And there was a lot of interesting news, actually. They're really pumping up the Madison Square Garden show, first and foremost. One of the big stories you saw all over the place after this interview was Cody Rhodes announcing that his Madison Square Garden match with Shinsuke Nakamura will be a bull rope or bullhorn match? I'm not even going to look it up. I haven't seen one in so long. Bull rope, bullhorn, something like that. But it's interesting, man. And it's a matchup that I believe Dusty, his father, had implemented. The first one to ever do such. Or it was at least a staple for Dusty. So this is big for Cody. He says he asked Pierce for it, it got approved, and he announced it on this radio show. So they're really pumping up Madison Square Garden. You got Cody Rhodes and Shinsuke with that bullhorn, bull rope match. You have CM Punk, who just became, marketed for this, I guess you could say, right? Promoted for it. There you go. CM Punk, this was just in the last couple of days. CM Punk was added to this show. His first show was supposed to be December 30th. That's a Saturday. Right before New Year's. That was supposed to be his first show. He was just down in NXT, shaking off the ring rust. And they said, you know what? We're going to add you to the holiday tour. So they put CM Punk on the same show. Cody versus Shinsuke, big main event with the bullhorn, bull rope. CM Punk versus Dirty Dominic Mysterio. MSG, man. It's a big, big show that they're promoting. And Cody Rhodes announced that news on this radio show. But it's a couple of other points, guys, that BC found very interesting. You know, they didn't just hold back on the questions. And I think it was Don LaGreca who said, with AEW and the history with them and all of that, do you think it's healthy competition for WWE? And Cody Rhodes, bluntly, he was not trying to take a shot, guys. It wasn't a jab. He was just so calmly and honestly, he answered, I just don't think there's any competition to WWE right now. He said something, and I'm paraphrasing, but something to the effect of course it would be healthy and they're fine, but there's no competition to WWE. We're in a place right now in a zone where we just feel like we're just really just collectively just doing our best work. Again, slight paraphrase. But he said basically we're in a position right now as talent. Business is business. That's for the suit and ties to take care of. But they feel like they're all gelling right now very well. They have so many top baby faces. So if creative and storylines and everything can get behind them, there is a possible boom that could happen. That all depends on if Levesque McMahon is going to start making Raw and such much better. But they feel like they're in a spot where there's just no competition. And I don't feel at all, guys. I watched this thing because even though it's a radio, it's simulcasted on the Yes Network. I was literally doing notes on my own stock report, if you will. My own little side project that I had going. And I'm doing all these notes. And I'm literally watching Cody. He was like one of those satellite type things. Because again, they put this on the Yes Network, which is the television, but it's a radio show. It's where we're at, man. People watch podcasts. A lot of people, it's on the tube. A lot of people watch BC. They don't just listen. So on my hour-long rants, a lot of people still choose to watch. I appreciate that. But so I'm watching Cody, and there's no jabs or anything to AEW. He just says there's just no competition. So no, would it be healthy competition? Yes, but there's just no competition to WWE. Very honest. And he's right. There just isn't. There's no competition to WWE right now. You would have to add up Dynamite, Collision, and Rampage, and then maybe you come close to the fledgling Monday Night Raw rating, which is obviously very bad. But you would have to add up all three of AEW's primetime weekly shows just to pop Raw's rating, which is not good to begin with. So yeah, it's not competition. We were hoping it was going to be, or this alternative would spark more interest, but it just never did. So Cody Rhodes was asked another question. This is huge. He was asked about MJF. Straight up question. Do you ever see MJF going to WWE? Would you envision MJF? Would he go to WWE? And Cody Rhodes, again, calmly, full of honesty. No jab, not trying to raise controversy or anything like that. He just says, yeah, I do think you'll see MJF in WWE. He says he knows where his future lies. And again, I don't think that was a jab. I think he just means that MJF knows who he is, knows where he wants to be, get to, looked at when it's all said and done, his legacy. You guys remember MJF studied under Cody Rhodes. So it's not like they have not had these long talks about WWE. Long before Cody went back to WWE, Cody wanted to go back to WWE. These talks have been there. MJF's big storyline for so long is the big decision of 2024. That's not just storyline. MJF knows where his future lies, is what Cody says. It's because MJF knows how he wants to be perceived. The tricky part is Tony Khan cannot lose somebody like MJF. And MJF has a comfortable home in AEW, just like Sting. Sting never really tried to branch out and bet on himself in WWE. Sting never did that. He just always felt like he would be misused. Possible. But somebody like Sting would have made it. That's the problem. Anybody else saying that? Yeah, Vince would have screwed them up. But back in the day when Vince was rocking on all cylinders, Ultimate Warrior was on top of the world. Sting would have absolutely been a mega star. Bare minimum, somewhere between Undertaker and Ultimate Warrior. So it's sad that he never truly went and betted on himself because he just didn't trust the process and he had a comfortable home in WCW. He was the guy, Sting. So MJF could have that in AEW. For as long as AEW does stick around, MJF he can get a lot of money. He can be one of the top guys. But Cody Rhodes could have been that. Cody Rhodes was an EVP. He founded the company. Till the end of his career, he could be a top guy there. But no, he bet on himself. He said there's more business to do. There's a legacy that is far greater than what I can accomplish in AEW or any title that I can have in AEW. And I just don't mean championship gold. I mean title like before your name. Cody Rhodes bet on himself, and look where he is now. One of the top stars. Could have easily walked out of WrestleMania with a championship. Still might at 40. He's saying that MJF, he knows what MJF actually wants, legacy-wise. He knows where his future lies. And Cody Rhodes and he thought about it when he was asked. And Cody Rhodes just said, yeah, I do think you're going to see MJF in WWE. I mean, that's as honest as you can be. Now, later in the interview, he says if he ever does, if he's not saying he's going to, he's under contract. Cody Rhodes, of course, Jade Cargill came over, and Jade Cargill, one of her biggest confidants, one of her biggest supporters, one of the people that really just brought Jade Cargill up in this business. One of those people was Cody Rhodes, one of his favorites, one of her favorites, and it's no surprise that Jade Cargill, I guess to a lot of people, showed up to WWE. And when asked, Jade Cargill was honest. She said, yeah, Cody Rhodes was a big reason why I'm here. She didn't even lie about it. Cody Rhodes is a big reason. Ricky Starks is going to be in WWE. We all know that. Cody's never shied away from that. Ricky Starks still to this day doesn't shy away from that. Ricky Starks will be there, of course. That's one of Cody's best friends. Cody has no problem putting in that good word, and he knows these individuals. So for him to say that MJF, he does believe he's going to be there, I think we all know that MJF and WWE is just something that's going to happen. It just has to. MJF and Paul Levesque McMahon, those face-to-face, MJF just really MJF has to be the new CM Punk to Triple H, right? When Paul Levesque ever becomes that authority figure that somebody's trying to piss off or whatever, it's got to be MJF. That writes itself. But just, those type of Seth Rollins, MJF matches, MJF, Kevin Owens, I mean, there's just certain matches that just have to happen. Randy Orton, MJF. It's not, and I'm not saying for dream matches, right? That's a word that wrestling fans just toss around. Dream match. No, it just has to happen because there's mega business there, and the storylines would just make... I mean, those are the type of things that'll turn a show around, like Punk and Rollins right now, popping nearly a 1.9 rating. But when the rest of the show sucks, you're going to get a 1.4 rating. 2 football games, 2 Monday Night Football games, or 10 football games. Doesn't matter. The last 2 months, they've been pulling in a 1.4 average. You can't just blame that on 2 Monday Night Football games. That's the problem. But when you have multiple things going on, right? If Roman showed up more and he was doing something, and you got Sethington and Punkington doing their thing, here's MJF and Randy Orton doing something over here. Now we're talking, maybe you got something, a really dynamic storyline for the tag team division. Over here, the female division's really heating up. Bayley is bringing somebody in to help her fend off her former sisters of Damage Control. Oh, it's Sasha Banks, Mercedes Moné. Don't put it past Sasha Banks teasing a little bit, man, showing that clip of her NXT days, thinking WWE again. This is the first time where she was like, she feels comfortable enough to like reminisce. That's the first step in the process of like, maybe I miss it. It's the first step, man. And Bayley is going to need some help when she finally is booted from Damage Control or leaves. Sasha Banks. Just saying, man, but when you have 4 or 5 really awesome things going on at once, it's fun. It's fun. There was a little boom last WrestleMania season. Remember coming out of Royal Rumble or going into the Rumble? The whole WrestleMania season, right? You see that bump because interesting things start to take place. So lapsed fans and casual fans that don't watch week to week, they're bringing their remote control over and they're putting it down. And that's why you see the spike in ratings around WrestleMania time, right? You have fun things. LA Knight and Bray Wyatt, man. That was a fun storyline to the majority of us. The ratings showed you that. But around that same time, Sami Zayn and the Bloodline storyline was one of the best storylines we've ever seen. When you have a couple, 2-3 of these bare minimum together, numbers are going to back it up. That's why I always say the numbers will tell you if something is working or not. It's just you have to dedicate yourself to care enough. And that's where Levesque McMahon is going to have to say, I can't do it by myself. And he knows that. He's already got people around him, but nobody is dedicated to caring enough to put forth the best possible product. And until they do that, MJF is going to have to think, man, do I want to go right now? I mean, they're stacked with the baby faces. They have enough heels if they need them. And the rating isn't budging. like, we got to talk. If I'm going to sign with WWE, we got to talk. Because I'm just leaving one sinking ship and I'm going to another one that just, even though it's not sinking, it can't find its way to shore. Damned if you do, damned if you don't. Cody Rhodes, man, saying AEW, he just doesn't look at it as competition because he thinks there is no competition to WWE. That's how good they are right now. And he says that MJF, he does see him in WWE in the future. Interesting. Honesty, man, by Cody Rhodes. So we will see. You know, you see that John Cena thing. I think it was at the movie premiere of Iron Claw. And John Cena shaking hands with MJF. And Cena was just like, good work, young man. Or, you know, one of those John Cena, you know, he just looks like he's nice to meet you. Good work, young man. And MJF was just wanted to keep him there. MJF just started going into a story. MJF, just like Cody, they always envision themselves as the next John Cena. Well, you can only do that in one place. World Wrestling Entertainment. Interesting. BC, yeah, saying until next time, and there will be that next time. Top guys, we are out. Current status, check you.